Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my recordings. In this recording, I am going to spend a little bit of time talking about something that has been on my mind for about 5 months. And this is very much going to be a stream of conscious kind of discussion. This is something that has just been bouncing around my head for quite some time, and I want to get it out. I want to get it out so that I can move on to some other things. But what sparked this? Well, I'm going to get to what sparked it in just a couple of moments, but I would say what prompted this most recent noodle, if you will, was that I was watching The Old Guard. And this is a new movie that was just released by Netflix. I just saw it yesterday. It was released yesterday, so I just saw it. And I thoroughly enjoyed The Old Guard. This was actually a comic book related property that was recommended to me by a subscriber a few months ago. And they basically gave me a heads up that Netflix was going to be doing this movie. And they were like, hey, you might want to check this book out. And the book is basically a mixture of things that I dig, right? So it's a little bit of history. It is some military stuff. And it's basically some wars, guns, and that kind of stuff. So, and then a little supernatural as well. And so if they had thrown in vampires, it would have been like perfect. It would have been perfect with a vampire. But, well, technically they are immortal, but whatever. But the Old Guard was really a fantastic comic book. And I think it was a 6-part series. I caught wind of it again from a subscriber. I sat down, I read the entire series in basically one day, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I basically waited for the movie to drop. I watched the movie and I enjoyed it. It was like the pages of the comic basically came to life on the screen. And while I basically knew the story from beginning to end, I still watched it and I still enjoyed it. And Greg Rucka, who wrote the comic and also wrote the screenplay for the movie on Netflix, did a fantastic job. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. If you haven't read the book, or if you haven't read or watched the TV show, I definitely encourage you to check both of those things out. Treat yourself, check both of them out. I think that you will enjoy it, especially if you like, again, war and immortals and that kind of stuff. It's definitely a really, really cool concept. And again, Charlize Theron did a really good job acting in it as well as Andy. And I'm not going to give away the premise of this thing. That's not the point of this video. But so I watched it, I enjoyed it. And I began to reflect upon a YouTube video that I saw a few months ago, maybe 5 months ago when I saw this video. And it's just been kind of bouncing around my head ever since I saw this video. There was a concept that was presented that just kind of stuck with me. And I've thought about it periodically over the last several months. And again, the most recent was when I watched The Old Guard. But what this YouTuber actually talked about. And again, this is not a criticism of that YouTuber. It is basically people express their opinions. I have nothing wrong with people expressing their opinions, especially if they are doing so in a respectful manner. And this person was expressing their perspective on something. And it's, hey, do what you do. And it was perfectly fine. But what was said kind of stuck with me because I fundamentally just disagree with it. Fundamentally disagree with the concept of what this person was saying. And basically what they were saying was that they don't think comic book creators should do anything other than create comic books. Comic book creators should just stick to creating comic books. That was essentially the gist of what this person was saying. And I think where they were coming from, and because I'm going to have to read into it, right, was that they were basically saying that comic books these days aren't good because people are writing those comic books for the purpose of trying to sell them to Hollywood. The comics these days aren't good because a lot of comic book creators are basically writing them for the purpose of trying to sell them to Hollywood and make more money. And the argument was almost like These people don't really want to be in comics. They are using comics as a stepping stone to movies and to screenplays and to all of this other stuff. They don't really want to be comic book creators. And I struggle. I struggle with that for so many different reasons, because we don't know that to be true. We don't necessarily know that these people are using comics for the purpose of a stepping stone to something else. And even if they are, who cares? Who cares? Who doesn't want to get promoted? Who doesn't want to do bigger and better things than what they are already doing? Who doesn't want progress? And why would we tell creators not to be creators? Why would we try to stifle the creativity of a creator? It has been my experience that creative people tend to have an abundance of creativity that just spills out in lots of different ways. I have an uncle that back in the day when he was a teenager, in the 70s, this guy was making his own clothes. He was making clothes for other people and selling clothes. He was drawing. He was doing paintings. He was playing musical instruments. He was singing. The dude just had an abundance of talent, an abundance of just creativity. It's like Salvador Dali style type of creativity in one respect. And then he would paint this fantastic mural in my grandmother's basement, like on the floor. That was like something you had never seen before. That was like the complete opposite of a Salvador Dali, just extremely talented. And my uncle is just one of the creative people that I've met over my lifetime that have this abundance of talent that just oozes out of them. And it's almost like they have to find a way to express this creativity, because if they don't, then they feel stifled. But by expressing their creativity in all of these ways, with what I've seen is that they just get better and better and better by releasing it and getting it out there. And yeah, they may paint one day and they may sing something the next day, but the singing gets better and the musical playing gets better and the artistry just gets better, because they're honing all of this artistic talent. And it is something to behold, and to say that type of person should not express that creativity. I struggle with that. I struggle with putting a creative person in a box and say, these are your four corners. This is where you operate. I struggle with that idea, because it's almost like saying that if these creators are creating comics for the purpose of a screenplay and a movie, that the comic isn't any good. And I struggle with that, because the comics are good. There is so much good writing out there that it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And if you are going to write a comic for the purpose of creating a screenplay, for the purpose of making a movie, it would make sense that you would make that comic as good as it can possibly be, so as to have sales and fans of that comic and those characters that will go to see that movie. Having a sales record, a track record of success with the comic, allows you to have discussions with producers to say, if you turn this property into a movie, people will want to see it. So the idea that people would maybe sandbag or work not as hard on the comics because they're trying to make a movie, that is also not quite. I don't get those dots don't line up for me. They really don't line up for me. And so again, this is just something that I've been kind of noodling over time, this idea of trying to stifle the creativity of creators, because you believe that the comics are suffering as a result of these people trying to do more. I struggle with that. As a YouTuber, I can tell you I am constantly trying to improve the quality of the content that I am putting out. I am constantly thinking about how can I do better? How can I do more? And that doesn't mean that I shift my attention from my videos and shift them to this other thing. It means that it's all connected. If people don't watch the videos, then people aren't going to do these other things that are a byproduct of the video. So the video quality has to stay good. The quality of the comics have to stay high in order to make these other things work. It has to work that way. And so I was thinking about this thing again for a while. For several months, this has been on my mind. And before watching The Old Guard, the previous time I was thinking about this was when I was watching a documentary or some videos about Stan Lee. And there was something that Stan Lee said that kind of stuck with me. And I'm probably going to butcher this, but I'm going to attempt to paraphrase it. And what Stan basically talked about in this clip that I was watching was that he shortened his name from Stanley Lieber to Stan Lee because he did not want to waste his good name on comics. And that was my takeaway from his statement. He was like, I did not want to waste my good name on comics when I want to write novels. So even the great Stan Lee, who has contributed significantly to comics as a whole and has influenced millions of children, and that the children that have gone on to become adults, even he was not necessarily someone that was always 100% committed to comics, but his influence is undeniable, as is the contributions of all of the other creators that worked with Stan Lee to create the many characters that he went on to create, and that he has also gotten credit for, right? He didn't do it alone, but the point is that Stan wasn't always 100% committed to this thing. I think he actually did write a couple of books. I think he wrote a couple of books. I don't know how good they were, to be honest with you, but he did not necessarily set out to make comic books his life's work. He had other career ambitions. Maybe they were unfulfilled, maybe they were fulfilled. It depends. You would have to have known him to ask those questions to better understand that. But the point is that he wasn't focused on one single thing the entire time. The same way that these creators that are putting out content now aren't focused on just one thing. The idea that you can only do one thing, in my mind, is just interesting. The idea that a creator has to love something as much as the people that enjoy that creation, I don't also know if I agree with that either. You would like to think that your favorite author loves his characters as much as you do. And maybe he does. Maybe she does. Maybe they don't. Who knows, right? At the end of the day, sometimes people do jobs in order to feed their families, in order to put food on the table, in order to have the things that are necessary for life. Sometimes people just do jobs, and that's actually okay. It's actually okay that someone may want to go down that path, and we can't poo-poo someone because they don't love something as much as you do. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. And if they don't enjoy it as much as you do, that's actually okay. But I don't think that we should ever begrudge a creative person or a person that has career ambitions for their ambitious nature, especially if they are continuing to put out good products that we can enjoy. We should not begrudge them for trying to do more and to be successful and to be ambitious and to strive for more. And again, this is just something that has been on my mind for several months, and I needed to get it out. I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better now that I've expressed it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm very curious what you all think. I'm very curious what you think about this particular thing. Should content creators for comics only focus on comic books? Or is it okay that they find ways to branch out? Is it okay that they find different ways to feed their families and to express their creativity? Is that okay? Or do we just want to put them in a box and leave them there and stifle that creativity? And again, as poorly as I set that up, there is no right or wrong answer. I probably shouldn't have said that last part, but yeah, it's I'm curious what you all think about this, right? Are you okay with creators expressing their creativity in lots of different ways, or should they focus on a single thing? That was probably the better way to do it, right? I put a little too much spin on that last one. All right, so with that, I am going to wrap this video up. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this. I hope that you found it entertaining, maybe, and I'm looking forward to reading the responses down in the comment section. So if you have some thoughts, I definitely encourage you to leave those behind. If you enjoyed the video, I want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button. And if you need to reach out to me, you can actually do that on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.